to ideate, to collaborate, and to think about some of the really critical issues that we face in the world. But also looking at the 2063 African Union Agenda to really develop the Africa that we want, engaging the diaspora, which is considered the sixth region. So I'm fortunate enough to be involved with initiatives that are related to the Permanent Forum for People of African Descent and the International Civil Society Working Group. I know there will be some participants here today who will also be joining in this way. And so it's really a remarkable occasion. Make sure you take the opportunity to say who you are in the chat. Make sure you make connections. If somebody says something that's interesting to you, make sure that you comment and you respond to affirm what was being said, but also to be visible. This is an opportunity for us to engage and to interact and to connect. And so I feel very proud and pleased and privileged to be here for this launch event. Today will be full of many activities, many wonderful guest speakers with goodwill messages, as well as an opportunity for us to be in community with each other in breakout rooms so that we can connect with each other and have actual dialogue to talk about the problems that we need to resolve here in our communities and within the world with each other in collaboration. So with that, I am very grateful to welcome Sophia Ibn Garba, who is the convener for the Kabilun Africa think tank, and will be providing you with the overview.
Thank you, Andrea. Hi, everyone. First of all, I would like to actually highlight who Andrea is, because you might be wondering, oh, who just welcomed us to this session. So just a very quick one to share that Dr. Andrea Thomas is a seasoned global education leader. Her focus on virtual exchange and international collaboration. She's worked with numerous universities to design innovative programs, as you can see, that foster intercultural understanding and digital skills. She has tons of experience. I've known her for decades now, I believe. Some of the organizations include UNICEF, SUNY, Farmingdale State College, and Purdue University. She's passionate about using education as a tool for social change and has lived and worked in diverse cultural contexts. As a matter of fact, first time I met her was in Kyrgyzstan. So she has amazing expertise in global education and commitment to equity and inclusion, and obviously is of African descent. And that's why we thought it would be great for her to welcome us in. I'm thinking that a lot of people hopefully know me on this call. I am a peace builder and social entrepreneur. I have over 25 years of global experience in sustainable development and human-centered solutions. I'm the founder of Empowering Women for Excellence Initiative and the Kabilun Africa think tank. But I happen also to be a Desmond Tutu Reconciliation Fellow. I really am passionate about addressing complex human development challenges, particularly for girls and women, and doing so in innovative ways. I'm a certified facilitator, mentor, and learning development professional. Also a doctoral student with the University for Peace, UN mandated. And this, for me, is a very beautiful culmination of all the work we've been doing and continue to do. To support our communities and the kinds of change that we want to see. So I'm going to go very quickly, might as well just go into some of the introductions for you to understand what Kabilun Africa is all about. So many of us have signed in for your goodwill. I want to say thank you so much for being so supportive of us and our work. And anytime I call, you're there. So thank you for that. So obviously today we are going to be launching, this is the online launch and dissemination of the first legacy. So we call our products legacies because these are things that not only hopefully will stand the test of time, but will make a true difference. Our first legacy is on African Youth Voices. It's a volume one, and it focuses on budget priorities. Our agenda for today is the welcome that Andrea so kindly started off, and we're going to do a brief overview of KATT as a whole, so you understand what KATT is. If you don't know, we have some very special people. Everyone's special. We have some special people that took out time from so many things to join us and share their goodwill messages with us. And then we will have a little bit of a in-depth view on the legacy itself. So note that I will not be talking a lot, neither will Andrea be. A lot of you are going to be speaking, a lot of professionals. It's going to be fun. And then we'll have breakout chats, and you'll see what that's going to be about. We have two panels today. One will be on changing the African narrative. I am incredibly excited about how that is going to go. Another energizer to stretch. And then we'll have the youth policy parlay. Excited about that too. Like, youth are going to be speaking today. It's their thing. And then we'll have the announcements and closing. And I know it seems 3 hours might seem like a long time, but I think that you will find out it will not be because of all that's going to be going on. Okay. All right. So, what is Kabilun Africa? It is the African tribe think tank. Now, Kabilu is derived from Kabila, which is a Hausa word that's spoken widely across over sub-Saharan Africa, more than 70 million people. I'm sure even the numbers are higher, particularly around the western part, of Africa. And it's mainly about the tribe, right? The African tribe, the thing we keep saying about Africa. Our mission is to change the negative narratives and present Africa to the world as a superpower she truly is. And we are a superpower. I think that maybe sometimes we don't know it, and we need to realize our own potential and do our work ourselves, roll up our sleeves and get it done. Our vision is to influence policy to deliver the Africa we deserve. Okay, and that's very important. That's kind of like very, very key pillar of what we're doing at KATT. And obviously, Africa is our home, and we discuss on Africa. All are welcome. All are welcome, regardless of race or any other identity. You're invited to join, but obviously, this is what is driving our connections and engagements. Now, our scope around good frameworks that exist already. Obviously, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals is one of them. The SDGs. Andrea mentioned the AU frameworks as well. There, we focus on key contextual issues. So our work is incredibly important for contextual issues. As much as we talk about the continent as well, we also want to look at the unique issues in countries around the continent. Our scope also includes capacity strengthening and development, and very importantly, local expertise and wisdom. And we're going to be doing that, already doing that through participatory research, capacity development, policy advocacy dialogues, and legacies like this first one we are launching today. Now, speaking of what we are launching today, it is a policy brief. It's a policy advocacy brief, actually, that culminates a 5-month consultative process with youth across Africa. It contains background information, key insights from 3 selected video submissions, and a youth survey from several countries in Africa. It comes in a multimedia format, which includes graphics, videos, and data visualization, and obviously also includes recommendations. And you can see that we have curated content and insights from 9 countries with a 56% female gender representation. And that consultation was done between March and July this year. And 4 things were actually kind of highlighted by the youth that they said were the most important things that they wanted their governments to prioritize in their budgets. And they are job creation, quality and inclusive education, quality healthcare, and gender equality. And as we go on, you're going to see and learn more of what that is. So without further ado, I am going to stop sharing. And we are going to start off with our goodwill messages will be coming in fast and furious. So I'm gonna hand it back to Andrea, and Andrea and I are gonna toss it between us, and we will have the introductions for each of our special guests before their goodwill messages comes. So I'm just gonna first hand it over and be projecting from my end. Over to you, Andrea.
Well, thank you so much, Sophia. That was an excellent overview of the Kabilun Africa think tank. I loved that video. I would love to see a round of applause in your reactions just to commemorate this important occasion. So I'm very excited about that. And I would be grateful if we could put up the slide for the first Goodwill Ambassador. Oh, there we are. Thank you so much for joining us. I had the great privilege of introducing Bekeme Masade Oluwala. And I'm sorry if I messed up your name, forgive me. But it's so wonderful to have you here. Please welcome Ms. Masade Oluwala. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here. My name is Bekeme Olula, as has been said, and I'm the Chief Executive of CSR in Action Group. And amongst other things that were said, when I joined the board of the GRI, speaking about youth, when I joined the board of GRI in 2020, I believe, I became the first Black person to join that board and the youngest ever. And every time that I think about that, I just think about the relevance of Africans on global platforms that allow for us to lend our voice to conversations that impact on us. Over the years, I've had the privilege of contributing to initiatives that drive sustainable development beyond founding CSR in Action. And as you did hear, one of our core focus areas is the think tank. Now, just thinking about the work that Kabilun Africa is doing, KATT, and I just want to say that I'm honored again to join you for the launch and dissemination of KATT African Youth Voices, Volume 1. I commend Sophia and the wonderful team at Empowering Women for Excellence Initiative for your dedication to elevating African perspectives and fostering the much needed intellectual capital that will shape our continent's future. As I listened to the earlier played video about KATT, and the young lady spoke about shedding positive light or stories about Africa, it resonated very strongly with me because I've traveled the world, 22 countries and counting, and I've come to the realization that we do beat ourselves up very badly. As most advanced countries suffer the same challenges that we do, but are very, very intentional about managing their communications and how they present themselves to the world. And this is not to say that, we should hide our problems, but I'm saying that we should celebrate our wins. And I think that that is part of using our intellectual capital to our own good. Today's focus on budget priorities, job creation, quality of life, etc., addresses, I think, one of the world's most pressing needs, not just Africa's, ensuring that resources are directed where they are most impactful. Our youth, which thankfully are Africa's largest demographic, are vital to realizing the Sustainable Development Goals. The fact that the SDGs, unlike the MDGs, focus on global goals is meaningful. It just emphasizes the fact that the world is a global village, and as such, everything that happens in Africa affects the rest of the world. Yet, statistics tell us that over 70% of sub-Saharan Africa's youth live on less than $2 a day, oftentimes excluded from meaningful policy discussions. I think this gathering amplifies their voices, ensuring that these priorities, our shared priorities, are seen and heard. It brings to mind the words of the late revered Kofi Annan, who said, and I quote, "Young people should be at the forefront of global change and innovation." Through KATT, we are not only preparing Africa's future leaders, but we're also empowering them to be today's leaders, as well as tomorrow's decision makers. With my many years of experience in sustainability and CSR consulting, I've seen that trust and transparency are the foundations of impactful community engagement. And I believe that this initiative's participatory approach, engaging youth across 9 African countries, echoes this truth. Because when you think trust, you think integrity, you think accessibility to information, and this is vital. And by bringing together diverse voices, KATT stands as a beacon, not just for inclusive governance, but for promoting trust and accountability in leadership. To our youth, I urge you to continue raising your voices and holding leaders accountable. KATT exemplifies the power of collaboration, and I'm excited to see what policy recommendations you've crafted. I think that they hold the potential not only to transform Africa, but to serve as a model for the world. In closing, let's remember that Africa's true wealth lies not in our natural resources, but in us, the people, especially our youth. I think that you're reminding us, KATT, that by investing, or EWI, that by investing in this legacy, we are building a continent that values resilience, self-sufficiency, and progressive leadership. I'm really excited to see the transformative impact this think tank will have. And as always, Safia, I look forward to supporting you and your team on this wonderful initiative. Thank you all so much for having me, and blessings.
Much appreciated, Becca. Thank you so much for those words. They are so heartwarming, so kind. And yes, we know we can always count on you. And so we always reach out. Thank you so much for your thoughts. And Andrew had to step away for a bit. So she and I are going back and forth with this. And we also congratulate you on the completion of CITE 2024 this year. Excellent work. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. So we are going to move on to our next special guest speaker. And we have someone from all the way from Mauritius. Manisha Dukhni is a Harvard education economist, is a leading expert in African investment and development. I'm so glad she was able to join us. So Manisha, I am going to hand over very, very proudly and happily. Thank you for joining us, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Tafia. And actually, I am speaking right now from Brussels. So I didn't want to miss this wonderful occasion. For me, and I want to just borrow exactly what Bekeme said, the future of Africa is the youth. And for me, it's very important to support the youth and to continue the work that has been done for the youth. For very long, I would say, I think all of us across Africa have been looking up only to the elders for wisdom. But I see now when I'm looking across the continent, so with ALSF, we cover the whole continent. I'm also managing funds and looking at investment, mostly in the Eastern and Southern African region. And we're seeing the type of innovation that is being brought by the youth as being amazing and really life-changing in terms of what is being brought in. For me, especially when we're looking at, and when I'm talking about innovation, innovation doesn't need to be only about ICT. It's about so many things. I meet youth across the continent when I'm traveling and engaging, who are doing amazing things. So I just want to give a few examples for the youth that are speaking, that are here together with us. Payment solutions is one of the big problems across the continent. As we know, there are several migrant workers going across the continent, living in so many different countries, and they pay a huge amount for transferring funds to their home country. And so I'm seeing so much of innovation that is being brought in by the youth in that fintech sector, whether it is in Nigeria, whether it is in Kenya, in South Africa, or in Mauritius. As you know, I chair Mendex, and we have the opportunity to interact with these youth that are bringing in these type of innovation. I was at an FAO summit recently, and I had the opportunity to meet with a very young lady about, not even 30, who thought about bringing in services for the agriculture community in her own country, which is Botswana. And now these services that she's brought in has been rolled over, and she has about 1 million farmers who are in her database, and she's rolling out so much of sharing of information, sharing of ideas, and bringing in really innovation in the in this sector. I was based in Rwanda for many years, and I witnessed firsthand the setting up of a company which was doing delivery of medical supplies, and in particular blood, to provinces that were far away and that didn't have access to electricity or access to good medical supplies. So and this is because some youth dreamt about it, thought about it. For many people who have been, who worked for many years, for many of us, even for me, maybe, feel sometimes being blocked by what it should be rather than what it could be. And I'm very happy that we have the youth today that is looking at what could be done. And the future is really in the hands of the youth. I want to also add one thing, Sophia. I know this work is really about how to bring it in the budget of countries. I started my career at the Ministry of Finance in Mauritius. And I wouldn't be, for me, I would have loved to have more submission, more requests from the youth. We didn't get it. I would say I would really encourage the youth, and following the work that you've done, to set up public-private dialogue initiatives or public initiatives on specific issue-based initiatives for the youth to go and present their suggestions to the governments in the 9 countries that you have looked at, or even beyond, whereby there is a forum, where it is a youth forum, and it is based on specific things that are being done. Currently, there are many countries that are setting up new laws, for example, to enable startup acts that are being put up. Those are specifically the type of laws where the youth can bring in their voice, and they can present ideas as well. And those, for me, would make a big difference. Now, having said that, for me, I want to also give a special thought to women across the continent. Very often, many of the newer type of projects and law and work that is happening, a lot of those seem to be led by men and led by young men, whether it is in the IT field or it is in sectors such as in the green economy, for example. So for me, it is important to give a message to women that they should also make sure that they are present in those sectors, because these are future sector, even in fintech. These are sectors of the future, and we want to have women that are in rather than are being in the sidelines. So whenever there are any budget proposals or proposals that are being made across policy and for policy making, it is very important to have the voice of women heard and the voices of young women. So having said that, I would really commend all of you for the work that has been done, because it's not just about this presentation, it's about all the work and the survey and the engagement that has been done so far. I look forward to the actual implementation of this report and seeing very concrete action, and count on me for any type of support that the team may need, and happy to bring in further thought and advice in any way I can. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Manisha. I'm gonna hold you to that. And absolutely, we talk enough in different fora and all kinds of opportunities. But absolutely, as you said, something concrete and sustainable from this. And it's really amazing. And that you as a leader in this field, and your insight even from the Minister of Finance, it's a perfect fit, starting your career there. So that is absolutely going to be useful for us, not just in the countries that we've done, but moving forward and bringing about concrete change. Whether it's at a minimal level from the grassroots, we start somewhere, but we do want to make sure that something and change is happening. Then the young people not only have a voice, that they're heard, and things happen because of what they've said. Thank you so much, Anisha. So we're going to go to our next special guest, who's going to give us another goodwill message. So we have Dr. Abiola Oshuni. We have the whole party here today. So I am going to stop sharing and hand it over to you, Abiola. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Sophia. It's great to be here. I'm actually excited to see Bekeme on the call. It's a surprise. It's a good surprise at that.
Hi,
Thank you so much for
Abiola.
having. Hi, Bekeme. It's a great one to be here, and I'm excited. I'm elated to be here. First, let me congratulate Sophia and the rest of the KATT and EWI team for putting this together. This is not only timely, but critical to positioning the future we desire from actually today. I've been in forums where it's a lot of talk around trying to get things moving for the future, but we really never get to see action happen. And when you see action happen, it's more in terms of just probably making some policies, or just not really moving the needle significantly. It's also exciting to be standing, or speaking to, be surrounded by Africa's young minds, especially young progressive minds. And it kind of speaks to one of the critical potentials that the Africa continent has. And sometimes from certain people, it is seen as either we're sitting on a teeming time bomb, or something that could potentially create value for the African future. 60% of our 1.4 billion population is actually under 25. And it's not just a statistic, it is an immense opportunity, like I said. Let me quote a bit of what Nelson Mandela said. He said, "It is in your hands to create a better world for all who live in it." So, if we wanted to create a future, automatically, the youth is where we will really look to. And it is the responsibility of all of us here today to really help shape that future. We have that call, that responsibility, and we need to be able to say, what future do we really desire? And that's where this enabling process is. To harness this youth potential, effective engagement, like this is essential. When young people are empowered and engaged, we unlock innovation. And I like what was just talked about, innovation, not just focusing on technology and process innovation, government process improvement, is innovation that is critical. We unlock resilience and solutions that are truly from African origin. I'm a big fan of growing African brands and African homegrown solutions. And this is quite interesting to me to see a think tank, a people coming together that are really focused on bringing young people to think in that direction. This engagement is not just about participation, it's about active ownership. And that's something everyone that has spoken before me has alluded to. When a young person is empowered, you're essentially empowering the future of that community. When a young person is empowered, you're essentially championing sustainability, and resilience for that community. We need young Africans who will take the lead in their communities, who will rise to meet local and global challenges. This is our chance to shift the narrative and showcase what young Africans can achieve when given the right platform and support. Let me suggest quickly that young Africans should not just be activists and advocates, but become politically involved. Can we galvanize resources and identify young Africans with integrity, including of people with disabilities and young women, that can be supported to sit in political offices and be supported to actually succeed? It's one thing for people to get into offices, another thing for them to actually succeed in the offices they sit in. This is where effective leadership becomes critical. True leadership starts with a mindset, an unwavering commitment to service, growth, and learning. Kwame Nkrumah once said, "We face neither east nor west, we actually face forward." This forward thinking mindset is crucial. Africa needs leaders who will guide with integrity, who listens, and who recognize that their strength lies in teams, communities that they actually serve. And this leadership is not only found in public offices, but in every initiative you take, every business you start, every idea you champion. Remember that each and every act of leadership is a building block towards a stronger, more resilient Africa. I see KATT as a collective playing a critical role in contributing to growing leadership competencies on the continent. Lastly, we must address the narrative of Africa. For too long, stories about Africa have been told by others and are focused on challenges rather than possibilities. As young Africans, you hold the pen to write that story. Until the lion learns how to write, every story will glorify the hunter, as the African proverb goes. We have seen how Africa has been portrayed as a continent that is dark and unprogressive. We have come across stories of Mansa Musa, Amina of Zaza, the Great Benin and Oyo empires, and the Jaja of Obobo. Well, do we truly know the stories of these people? Do we know the stories of these states? Do we have, the stories that have been told only from the outsider's perspective? It is time to redefine Africa as a continent of innovation, vision, and strength. In the words of Chimamanda Adichie, it is time to change the single narrative. Through your achievements and actions, you are crafting a new African story, one of hope, one of progress, and one of unstoppable potential. As you live here today and as you begin to think about it, think about how you can engage more deeply, lead more effectively, act actively, and more effectively to shape the African narrative. Africa's future is bright, and that's no doubt. You see, when you get on planes, you see a lot of people coming into the continent trying to exploit, and I use that very carefully and intentionally, its resources. But it is in our hands, in your hands, in my hands, to make it even much more brighter. Together, we can make Africa a continent where young people and every young person has the opportunity to thrive, lead, and create a mindful and transformative change for the next generation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Abiola. You see, as even as young as you look, you're giving us elders' words of wisdom. Thank you so much. The African story, how are we crafting it, and how are we crafting it to make real change? And I know that we will come again. So expect us to come again, and we would love to hear much more, even about your experience and the work that you've been doing across the continent. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Aviola. So don't worry, guys. We'll soon, we'll soon, as Africans, you know how do, we will listen to those who have gone before us to give us some really good advice. And then we'll get into talking a bit more. So we have just a couple more goodwill messages and we'll get into the next steps. Our next special guest is Dr. John Ishaku, and he's going to also be representing the DVC of the Kaduna State University. So I'm going to hand it over to you, John, to share with us. And John was actually going to be our last speaker. Are you here, John? Ah, yes. Okay, I see you now.
Okay.
Over
Hello,
to you.
Safia.
Yes, hello.
Good afternoon. Yeah, I'm with you. Thank you for the invitation. I'm very, very happy with what I'm seeing with the presentation about the Kabilun think tank. You are doing well. I'm so much interested, especially when it comes to gender, women, when they're on board. I'm so much interested. I was taught by my professor that when you train a man, you train a single person. But when you train a woman, you train a nation. So happy to meet you on board. I'm speaking in behalf of my DVC, Professor Helen Ando, the DVC Innovation and Strategic Studies, Kaduna State University. I am in support of what you people are doing in terms of development economically, politically, and socially in Africa. If we can put hands together on the box, sincerely speaking, will achieve a lot in all ramification. I am wishing you the best in all ramification. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you so much, John. I think that's a perfect way to cap up our special key messages. And just to give you a taste of what it is that we are doing or have done over the past, I don't know how many months, working on the legacy, which is what we're launching today. I want to say again a big special thank you to our special guest. Please hold on, because after we do the very brief overview of the product, it's important for you to see what we're talking about, and then we'll make sure to take a group photo and continue with other things. So I'm going to hand over to colleagues at the EWI team who are going to be talking about the legacy itself, just show you page by page what it looks like. You're all going to receive it by email, obviously, and we ask that you help in disseminating it. I'm going to hand over to Uche and Abduladan, who will introduce themselves, part of the EWI team. So over to you guys.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. My name is Uche Brown. I work with Empowering Women for Excellence Initiative as the Senior Program Officer Communications. And I'll allow my colleague Ladan to also introduce himself. So, Ladan, over to you.
Yeah, good afternoon here. I'm Abdullah Ladan. I'm the Program Officer of Communications working with Empowering Women for Excellence Initiative, and it is really nice to be here with you all. Over to you, Uchi.
All right. So we'll just have a brief view of the KATT document, KATT Legacy document, volume 1, of which that's the reason why we are here today. So, but before I just go through the document, there's this word I saw that actually struck a chord in me, and that is Ubuntu, which is an ancient African word meaning humanity to others. Talking about Ubuntu, and it means because you are because I am. It's the African creed, and that is the spirit of Africa in us. Everybody has their Ubuntu in them. So what you do with your own Ubuntu actually matters. So let's just move. This is the beautiful crafted KATT Legacy document, volume 1, and the theme focus on budget prioritization. So just move down a bit. Thank you. Yes, we see our author and our editors here. So page 1 of the document talks about the abstract and the background of the document. So what actually bettered the card? There was a sort of entries that were sent out, and we had youths sharing their voices, prioritization on what they feel their government should prioritize. So let's go down. Let's go down. Okay. Yes. Yes. Definitely. Somebody might ask, why budget prioritization? We all know that in the sphere of national development, it's the duty of all our government agencies to develop a plan on how they will allocate revenues, loans, and other sources of income to meet our economic development and social goals of our different countries. So what that means is our governments must ensure responsibility in carrying out this exercise, including developing a specific budget, putting in ample amount of time, and the rest of it. So when further to talk about the fiscal policy, like Sophia said, the document will be shared to us. So let's just go down. I like that place about what do you prioritize? Yes, that's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay, this is uh, uh, part of the entry from the video submissions that was made. Is from one of the video submissions from Eukarya to Cameroon, who happens to be a regional communications person, and said that in 2024, the National Assembly of Cameroon adopted an annual budget of 6.6 billion, and despite this budget, it keeps on repeating, and communities in Cameroon are still highly patriarchal in nature, with negative cultural practices, armed conflicts, which perpetuates and keeps women and girls in subordinate and disadvantaged positions. Despite in the budget, these people are being prioritized. Still yet, something needs to be done, which is pointing towards an accountability problem. That is from Eukarya. So let's go down. Let's see another entry. Yeah, this is Grace Okunola. She believes prioritization, the government of Nigeria goes. Grace Okunola is from Nigeria. She's she has an NGO, Girls Stand for Girls organization that is into peer-to-peer education, skill acquisition. So she believes the Nigerian government is supposed to prioritize quality education, which is sustainable development goal 4. And to Grace Okunola, she says education as the cornerstone for policy change and acts as a catalyst for societal progress, empowerment, and social development. She further highlights that quality education is a fundamental human right able to break the cycle of poverty, promote gender equality, foster innovation, and drive economic growth. One thing that just keeps playing in my mind when I hear education is, as a Nigerian or as an African, wherever you are, deep down you just ask yourself, how many people have access to quality education? How many boys, how many girls they have access to education? That keeps just ringing bell in my mind now. The next entry is from Antonia Uche Okafor, who is a skilled data analyst, researcher with a solid foundation in economics. So she is a vibrant Nigerian youth. She also notes quality education is also a fundamental pillar for the proper functioning of any society. So I'll borrow a quote that says, an uneducated youth, an uneducated nation is an unproductive nation. So Eukarya Uche Okafor also sees education as a high point of priority for our government, as the government of Nigeria. So can we just go down? Like Sefia said, this document will be shared. All right, this is just the poll. These analytics from the country of origin of the young people that took the expression of interest, what they want their government to prioritize. And these are the 4 sectors they want their government to prioritize. We have inclusive and quality education, we have gender equality, quality healthcare, and I see job creation is just there, followed by inclusion and quality education. Now, what other sectors should their government prioritize in resources allocation? In this year, you can see young people, the young people were talking about quality education, People were talking about water, quality healthcare, education, food, agriculture, job creation, healthcare, security, environment. It just went round and round. Yeah. So go down. Okay, down, down, down. Okay. So I'm just going to take the second paragraph here because the document is going to be sent already out of time. So the Kabilun Africa think tank team that starts, acknowledges and comments the many policies, plans and instruments in place for the development of youth on the continent, including national budgets, talking about different countries, not emphasis on Nigeria alone because Kabilun Africa think tank focuses on the Africa that we desire. So, however, we recognize the recurring gaps in participatory implementation and monitoring. So, the KATT team will recommend deliberate focus on the participation of youth themselves in budget implementation and monitoring, contributing to the feedback, look for decision making, and course correction. So, just in summary, nothing about the youth that is without them. So if you are making any input for the youth, you need to make them involved. So the African youth are rising and they are getting forward and they are taking back that which they so desire. Africa is for the youth and Africa is youth. Thank you. Thank you very much, Sophia. Thank you, Ladan, for, for thank you all. Thank you, the CAP team too.
So we're inviting you to take a quick poll on things you want to see your government prioritizing in Africa, especially issues that need to be quickly responded to in order for us to have the Africa we want, which is one of the missions of the Kabilun Africa think tank. So there's a link in the chat box, which is a quick survey, and we'll also have a live view of our responses here. And we would love to see your responses. And from that, we'll pick up the conversation and which will guide us in our next item, which is a breakout session to discuss the four most selected responses from this surveys. It's a very quick survey, like more like a 3-second something. And from there, we'll move on to share the live view for the responses, which will guide our next conversation. Thank you so much, and over to you, Sophia.
Thank you, youth. We're starting to see responses and we're going to give it a couple more seconds. But we would just really like you to follow that link in the chat, or if that's a problem, you can go to menti.com, use that code over there, 46849475, and you can rank what you think should receive more of a budget allocation in your country. And we can see we already have some responses. You can see that they're live results. They're changing as we're discussing. As more people answer the question, well, currently it's a race between education and quality health care for first and second position.
And this is a good one because, of course, education encapsulates even the quality healthcare because they need to be trained as in professionals in those sectors. And if the educational sector is not doing very well, it's going to affect every other sector. And I think it's justifiable why education is number one. So I think it is good, but maybe the discussion coming after will actually do justice to this ranking.
Thank you, Abdul Karim. Okay, so you will receive an invite now, and then you can go to the rooms. I'm opening the rooms.
Yeah.
So please join the room. And then we'll now make sure that we have different note takers in different rooms.
Now with the what do you call it, the introduction of the insurance, it's not really helping, right? So I'm in the renewable energy sector. And there are initiatives out there that are working. There's currently the health electrification telecommunications plan that is trying to deploy solar home systems to 10,000 health centers across Africa or wherever. I'm not sure of the scope yet, totally. But Africa can actually take part of it. Imagine 10,000 health centers getting access to renewable energy solutions. It's not a small feat. And it's there. It is 50% of it. Yeah, it is there, right? It's a USAID funded project. It is grants. It is 50% grant. If you find that to do electrification for a health center is $50,000, you can get 25,000 from them for free. And all you have to do is what? Ensure that this is installed. I'm currently trying to do that with the Kogi state government. We're going to install the solutions for about 47 health centers. What are we going to, how are we getting back the 50%? We're charging the government to pay at least half of what they would normally pay for the market cost of that. So you need to be innovative about the plans and the ideas, and we start talking solutions. I won't be happy if we are in this and we are constant.
Yeah, we keep repeating the problems. It seems we all know, not seems, we all know the problems, but what now? So, Habiba, first thing I'm going to ask is please make sure you join the LinkedIn group and also the membership so we can talk more about practical solutions. Because again, we have enough talking, but it's great that we're talking. And I think it's also great that we have come to, I would call it a positive frustration about the things we're facing. And let's see what we can do with what we have. So we need to move on to our next the next activity, because I know some people are anxiously awaiting it. We have two panels today. The first one, I'm going to share the moderator of the panel, and he will be introducing the members of the panel. Okay, we'll have the screen ready for you, Nasidi. So the next panel is on changing the African narrative. So kind of even building on what Habiba's observations were about what, how do we move forward? So we're going to have a panel discussion that is going to focus on changing the African narrative. And the moderator for that panel will be Abubakar Nasidi, who has about 15 years, 15 years experience in the media industry. You will find he has a perfect radio voice, as I like to say. And Nasidi, I'm going to just be sharing all the short introductions as you come up. So over to you.
Thank you very much, Sophia. It's really nice being here. Although the radio voice is kind of not very present today because I have had some cold, still recovering from it. So you guys will have to manage what you have right now. But thanks for the introduction. It's really, really, really great being here. And the topic at hand is also very exciting because we've had a lot of discussions on Africa and the problems of Africa. I think it's time for us that we start to generate ideas and move in order to change the narrative. And that is what we have today. Changing African narrative. That is what my panel will be discussing. And it's brought together prominent voices and experts to discuss the unique challenges that Africa faces and ways these challenges impact its global image. The panel will explore key areas, including safety and security, qualities of effective leadership, practical solutions for Africa's core issues, and methods to enhance the continent's identity, both internally and externally. So, through this conversation, we aim to create a shared vision of Africa that is resilient, forward looking, and reflective of its true potential. By addressing these growing areas, the discussion will offer insights and strategies for cultivating a more empowered and united Africa. So, this session has 40 minutes in all, and it's going to be broken into bits where we have our discussants, which whom I will be introduce him in a bit. Talk.
Did we lose Nasidi? Okay, here he is. It's coming.
Minutes for counter discussions for people who have noted some points that were said by a fellow discussant and want to say something about it. So in all, we have 40 minutes, and you will forgive me if I will be a bit strict with the timing because we got a lot of things to cover. And okay, let's start with Dr. Emmanuel Umaru Haruna. Dr. Emmanuel Umaru Haruna is a research fellow with the International Center for Economic Analysis. He's with us today by God's grace, and he is one of the panelists who shall proper solutions to the myriads of problems that we have in Africa. Thank you very much, Doctor, for joining us. And we shall also be joined by Larry Diana Gwani. Larry Diana Gwani is Deputy Director, Legislative Matters, Kaduna State House of Assembly. Dr. Larry is going to be very key in this discussion, especially with her extensive experience when it comes to humanitarian activities. And next we have Bala Bilkis. Bala Bilkis is Executive Director, Yes Foundation for Sustainable Development. And she also is on the panel to give us her own perspective regarding the problem and how to go about solving it, as Dr. John Shaku. All right. I am particularly excited to be moderating this session. Excuse me. And it's a privilege for me because as a grassroots journalist myself, I have seen the problems, and we always complain about them. But when it is time for us to proper solutions, most people shy away from that. And this is the moment when we shall be properly solutions to these problems that Africa has. And I want us to have a mindset before we go into this discussion. For most people, when you ask them about problems related to Africa, what you see is negativity. We believe that Africa is never going to be okay. Africa shall rise. Believe me, Africa shall rise. Africa is going to rise. And the youth are the key. And we are all a pedestal to do that. So we're going to start discussion this way. We will start by asking Larry Diana, who has extensive experience in governance and advocacy. So, Larry, if I'll be asking you, what qualities do you see as essential in today's African leaders? And how can policies better support these or those qualities, particularly in addressing the needs of marginalized groups? I hope you got the question. Or should I take it?
What qualities?
What qualities?
Okay.
What qualities do you see as essential in today's African leaders? And how can policies better support those qualities, particularly in addressing the needs of marginalized groups?
So can I answer?
We'll be giving you 7 to 8 minutes as you go through your solution. Go ahead, please.
Qualities. For me, you have to be one with the land. So I tell people I am Nigeria. So every leader should have that mindset of saying I am Nigeria, or I am Africa, or I am whoever I'm representing. I'm one with the land. That way you'll be kind. Your approach will be holistic. you'll be more inclusive. When you know that even if we're different tribes with another person, but his pain is my pain and his gain is my gain, because I'm one with that person. So for me, an African leader to be able to achieve a certain level of growth, you have to be patriotic, knowing fully well that even if we are different, we're all stuck in this geographical space. So we are one. If anything affects my neighbor, it's just a matter of time. It's going to hit home also. So for me, I see most leaders are not nationalists. They are tribalists. They are caged in their ethno-religious space, which actually drives them. So people are not seeing us as one Nigeria or one Africa. They're seeing me as a Kagoro girl, and which is a minority. So how will I survive if a majority tribe has that mindset also? So basically that is it. If the leaders can just know that we are one, and at the end of the day, if this ship sinks, we're all in it, then we'll be able to make better policies that will carry everyone along. We'll be able to be kind to the next person, knowing fully well that person's pain is our pain also, and that person's gain is our gain also.
You said quite enough. And what you said would also, I believe, have a boomerang on some of the things that some of the panelists would bring to board. So let's thank you. We thank you, in essence, for what you've done. You've set the pace. And let's move on to leadership. Okay, we've talked about leadership. Let's talk about transforming let's talk about transforming Africa's image and narrative. Okay, let's bring in Bala Balikis. And Bala Balikis is, of course, going to answer the question, how can local initiatives foster a positive and resilient image of Africa? And what role does community engagement play in changing in the continent's narrative? Let me take it again. How can local initiatives foster a positive and resilient image of Africa? And what role does community engagement play in changing the continent's narrative?
All right.
Are you with us?
Yes. Good. Yes, I am. I hope I can be heard, please.
Yeah, you're loud and clear. Did you get the question?
Yes, I did. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, moderator, for that question and for the amazing opportunity to comment on this very important topic. As introduced, I am a young development practitioner and humanitarian who is very deeply committed to advancing the rights and well-being of young people and vulnerable groups in my community. And over the course of my years in public health space, it's been very clear to me and evident that local initiatives indeed play a powerful role when it comes to shaping the narrative of our communities, our country, and our continent by extension. Local initiatives, they can very much continue to foster that positive and resilient image of our continent in so many ways, and some of which I would very soon discuss. And it is very important to establish that active community engagement plays a key role in that process and in those efforts. I will do my best to capture my response to the question asked by the moderator in like 3 dimensions. I will try to comment on the importance of or the power of local initiatives in shaping Africa's narrative. I'll try to comment on the role that community engagement plays in this, and maybe try to wrap it up with the importance of strengthening structures so that they can be able to tell our stories and bridge gaps. So let's dive into it. I've come to understand that local initiatives they are indeed the true stories of our continent because they reflect our resilience. They show our communal strength. And we must continue to invest in these local initiatives, and we must also continue to tell our stories. Through grassroots projects, local initiatives actually go a long way to demonstrate that changes and innovations are happening every single day in our communities across the continent. A very good example of such local initiatives is health interventions that are targeted towards maybe addressing sexual and reproductive health, access to water and sanitation for young girls, maybe in hard to reach community schools, um, maybe advocacy against GBV and other harmful social norms being championed by religious and traditional leaders. These are all demonstrations of local initiatives. A very notable one is a pilot project that is being implemented by Yes Foundation for Sustainable Development and 19 other community-based organizations across 75 communities in 5 northern states of Nigeria. This project is called the SKIP project, Strengthening Community Engagement and Accountability for PHCs. And this project is funded by Budget Foundation. Now, this project in question basically adopts a primary healthcare and community participation model. That is, if perceived that there's a dissatisfaction on the part of populations, that's okay, health services are maybe expensive, they're inaccessible or inappropriate, right? And in line with the national health policy, they are trying to see how to now ensure that there's equitable access and utilization of these services. So the approach in question that this project adopted wants to identify health as a very key part of development. It wants to identify, or it wants to try to move focus from just coming up with new technologies to ensuring that those existing technologies are even available to everybody. The third part of the model is trying to recognize the key role that community, the participation of people plays when it comes to health. And so all of this is to say that primary healthcare delivery is largely implemented, right, with minimal participation on the part of people. And that was not how the scheme was originally designed. So local initiatives like this go to paint the picture of our continent and African communities. It goes to show that they are taking ownership of their own health and their future. If these initiatives are continued, you will see that they'll be able to help us tackle the real needs of the communities, as well as showcasing that we have the capacity to address our own issues, our own challenges, while inspiring confidence in our community-led, while inspiring confidence both globally, locally in our community-led solutions. The next thing I want to comment on is the role that community engagement plays when it comes to transforming our image as a continent. This community engagement, active community engagement that we're talking about, is very fundamental if we're going to create a good image of our communities and our continent at large, because the communities are actively involved. These initiatives become more relevant and sustainable. That's the community ownership we're talking about, reinforcing that Africa as a continent and our communities are in fact resilient and united. When communities are engaged, they lead empowered narratives. For instance, our work under the SKIP project, it is deep rooted in the community, and it is a bottom-up approach because it allows communities to be able to become champions for health themselves. They are able to advocate against harmful social norms. They monitor the quality of services that are being rendered at the PHC level. They encourage women participation in these health conversations, and they actually showcase the success stories as a result. The last thing I want to comment on when it comes to how we can change the narrative and the role that local initiatives and community engagements can play, I'll talk about building institutions, structures as storytellers. As a continent, if we must achieve a lasting transformation, we need to be able to have structures that can help us to bridge the gap between local realities and what the global perception of us is. Both governmental and non-governmental organizations, they both have roles to play. They can serve as storytellers. They can amplify the voices of our communities, and they can showcase our successes on a global stage. Institutions are very vital, yes, for policy changes, and we've said a lot about that during the course of this virtual event. But they can also be storytellers because they can bring our local realities to the forefront. Just last week, I was having a conversation with my friend Taiwo, who has a background in photography and videography, and he was sharing with me a vision that he has about starting a video-based NGO. What he really wants to do is to create documentaries around critical social issues, right? And then giving communities a voice through visual storytelling. Now, this initiative is a critical example of a Nigerian that wants to reshape the narrative by amplifying the resilience, selflessness, and communal efforts within African communities. Local initiative like that of Taiwo could bridge the gap between these local stories and the international audience. It will help us to rewrite our narrative on a global stage and, at the end of the day, become a powerful vehicle for advocacy, understanding, and that change that we're trying to see. In addition, strong partnership and collaboration is very critical when it comes to trying to change our narratives. We can present Africa and our communities. We can present that we are not only rich in resources that we are known for, but also we are rich in ideas, we are rich in cultures, we are rich in, all the work that we do. Men Engage Nigeria is a very good example of such kind of structures that shows that you can adopt a multi-sectoral approach to redefine the role of men and boys when it comes to transforming societal issues and so on and so forth. I don't want to, I don't know if I've gone beyond the time allocated to me, but I think I'll just stop here for now. These are some of the things that we can do, some of the ways that local initiatives can help to change the narrative. And this is just a bit of what the community engagement can do to amplify that. Thank you. I'll be in the background if there are questions.
All right, that's a beautiful submission, and you will agree with me that if we were to give her the whole day for her to bring on board many other initiatives and ideas on how to get this done, she's going to be speaking experience, and that is very essential. Africa has got a lot of gifted young people. The problem is taking the action in alignment with unity and unity of purpose and being on the same page. Okay, we appreciate your submission. Let's go to Emmanuel Umaru Haruna. And I believe he's on the call right now. Emmanuel Umaru Haruna, who is an economic policy expert. So we would like to know, Emmanuel, how can economic stability contribute to better safety and security? And what policy shifts do you think are needed to enhance security at the grassroots level?
Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me to this panel. And I think I would like to thank the organizers here and also our team for putting these pieces together. I think this is exactly what we want to see moving forward. So sorry, I just want to correct some connotation regarding my name. I'm not yet a doctor. You just all board dissertation, right? So in a couple of months, so I'll be a doctor. Thank you. So having said that, then I think this question is really very key. So basically, I will address it into two perspectives. When we are talking about economic stability, there are many indicators for us to measure economic stability. We have the macro level indicators and also the micro level indicators. But first, I will start by, in the context of changing the African narrative, we also need to understand that concept that we call the theory of change. So maybe some of us that are working in in the development sector, so they are very conversant with project programming, are very conversant with the word theory of change. It's simply how and why do we desire a particular type of change that we envision. And when you look at this macro level indicator, just to simplify it, according to Dotlese, hello, can you hear me?
You're on. You're on.
Okay. Okay, great. So according to Dotlese, it says if you wanna, I can hear some a bit noisy. Is it from me? From the background, sorry. From the background, I can hear some noise.
It could be from some of the people on the call. I don't know. Please, let's try to.
Okay, great. So according to Dotlese, so he said, when we want to look at this kind of development that we envision, so three things are very important. What is happening to...
is the noise.
Sorry?
Abubakar Nasi and Emmanuel Haruna are talking at the same time. One of them needs to mute. Okay, go ahead. The other person.
Okay, great then. Okay, great then. Okay, so three things are very important. Then we need to understand what is happening to unemployment. We also need to understand what is happening to poverty. And the last point is we need to understand what is happening to inequality. So those 3 points can be able to mitigate this economic stability that we are talking about. So how do I link it to the insecurity at the grassroots level? Insecurity is a very big issue globally, so as we all knew, right? But in the context of Africa, some of those insecurity are man-made, not really like kind of natural made, right? And most of the drivers is that I don't want to begin to list the challenges because we are not here to discuss about the challenges. We are here to look at the solution. So how do we move forward from here? So moving forward, so we need 3 level of institution. So, but the challenge is that many Africans are looking at only the government institutions. Institution we have, in the context of Africa, we have 3 levels of institution: government institution, religious institution, and also traditional institution. Before the coming of globalization or westernization, what we do have is traditional institutions, right? So going back to the pre-colonialism, and that is where we don't really understand the point. Government, so we have a social contract with the government, and one of the social contract with the government is to ensure the security of its citizens. That is number one. In Nigerian context, our constitution protect life and the welfare of the citizen. That is the number one social contract between the government of Nigeria and our citizens. So these 3 levels of institution, it needs to be strengthening. So, and again, the traditional institution, so which is very closer to the people at the grassroots level, at the local government level, needs to step up a bit, because they are like, it's very challenging to understand whether they are really traditional institution or they are government institution, right? So that disconnect, so we need to address that. And again, we have seen a lot of traditional institution. For example, like maybe we are very aware of what is happening in Kano State, right? We have seen how traditional institution is involving in the works of the government, and which also breed insecurity. And like I did mention, some of the insecurity, because I'm speaking from Japan here, sorry, it's midnight now. It's like 12:30 a.m. now, right, in Japan. So I can move out safely. So I mean, peace and security is the bedrock of economic stability. So now, moving forward from narrating these 3 arms of government and what they're expected to play, right, in addressing this this insecurity that we're experiencing in Africa, let me move to the policy initiative. Now, the policy initiative that people have been thinking about, how can we begin to initiate the state level police or community policing, right? Like it's very conversant in the Western country like the US, the UK, so they have their community policing. But in the context of Africa, some of those politicians will try to weaponize this community policing. So that is why we need to also tweak the policy framework a bit. So who will be in charge of community policing? Is it the local government level? Is it the state level or at the federal level? So this has been the kind of challenge that has been going on for long. But based on my own experience, like the community policing should be under the mandate of the local government levels because they are those that are very closer to the community. So they understand the feeling of the community and they know each and every neighbor within that community is very important. Community policing is very key in order to maintain macroeconomic policy stability. And second, think about the social welfare is very key because as a father, if so you can't sit down at your home and see your kids going hungry, right? So you will see most of those kids begin to move with their peers, try to sorry, okay. So try to cause a kind of insecure environment so within your neighborhood. So all those kind of social welfare services. So it's also very important for us to address this insecurity that is happening at the grassroots level. And the last point that I would like to say before I round up is the issue of this so I don't know so what kind of context I would like to place that. So the issue of being your brother's keeper. So in the Southern Africa, we call it Ubuntu, right? You are because I am. So it's very key. And I will link it to issue about philanthropies or diaspora kind of resources, right? We have seen so in country like Ethiopia, so we have seen how diaspora are beginning to send their resources, either as human or maybe financial resources, to actually create a kind of developmental interventions in each of the community. And we have so many diaspora fund. As from the context of Nigeria, so this issue of diaspora fund has been politicized, right? So because of what is happening currently in Nigeria, so as in if a government cannot be able to manage its or maybe our resources, then how can we put this diaspora fund into the management of the government? So those are the questions that we in diaspora we keep on asking the government in terms of transparency in management of the resources. So I will stop here. So if there are other follow-up questions, so I would love to address that. Thank you so much, moderator.
Thank you, Emmanuel. I'm just wondering if we lost our moderator due to network issues. Just 1 second. It looks like we have temporarily lost him. Thank you for your intervention about the 3 level we should be addressing. Yes, he's back in. And again, part of the challenge of being in Africa, right? Infrastructure. Look at how we have struggled just to maintain a meeting online. So Nasidi, you're back? Yes. Nasidi, go ahead.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Umaru Haruna. You've said a lot about a lot of the problems, Emmanuel Umaru Haruna. And sorry, I was locked out automatically by my network. I don't know why. But what you've said is really on the topic, and it cuts, or let's say you hit the nail on the head. But I would like you to give a closing remark. I'm supposed to have done that to the previous 2 speakers, but I forgive me, I forgot to do that. So I'll give you that chance. I'll give a closing remark, maybe in a minute or less. what do you think is the main, or what's the first thing that we should do in order to set all these things to align, get the ball in motion? Emmanuel Omaru Haruna, back to you.
Yeah. Thank you very much,
What's the one
moderator,
thing
for
that we should do?
this. Yes. So thank you very much, moderator. I think the low-hanging fruit that we should be looking at is what one of it is what the other speaker from Mauritius said, is about digitalization, digitalization, and digitalization. And digitalization is all about financialization. So do you see? So once you now begin to digitalize government services, number one. Number two, once we now begin to digitalize the businesses of small scale entrepreneurs, it will go a long way in also empowering their household, vis-a-vis also contributing tax to the government. Right now, Nigeria, a population more than 200 million people, right? Its tax to GDP is less than 9%. No country in the world like that. So if tax to GDP ratio is less than 9, how do the government get resources to implement social welfare activities? Yes, sometimes it's like so I feel so sad for the government right now, because the resources are not really there in terms of tax revenue. So what we need to do is to create a lot of empowerment program by addressing these gaps across the government level and also across the institutional level. And the most low-hanging fruit that I would recommend for us here is the issue of financialization. Because when you now begin to equip the youth with digital services, so they will be able to be innovative, and they will be able to also be empowered, right, to also address their basic needs. And digitalization also has to do with education. It cut across all those sectors like education. Now, for example, during the COVID lesson has taught us a lot that education can be done via digitalization. So, like I did mention, digitalization is very key to address, to actually connect the dots. Because when you now begin to digitalize government services and also digitalize the businesses of small scale at the local level, they should be able to empower themselves. Thank you so much, here, moderator. Let me stop here.
That is very resounding. Really appreciate you, Emmanuel Haruna. And we'll just go back to Balikis, Bala Balikis. He mentioned a lot about what we need to do in terms of like the last point he made, digitalization, which everybody would agree here that it's a game changer. But most of the time, we rely on the government to do these things. The youths are standing by, watching, and in the end, nothing gets done. So, how do the youths, in your experience, come in? Let this be like your summary, maybe the parting shot. How do the youth come in to change the narrative so that the government will become very effective? Now, going to I'm talking to Bala Balikis now. If he's still on the call, Bala Balikis.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So, to answer your question, I would say that the youth can play a powerful role in changing the narrative to drive a more effective government by using their voices, using their skills, using their innovative thinking to advocate for transparency in government, advocate for accountability, and to advocate for inclusion. That's just the best way I can put it, because as you know, the youth, we are very innovative, we are very energetic, and we have more population, right? So if we all came together and did our part we would see some level of effectiveness in governance, right? And just to touch on a bit of what my question was about, which had to do with initiatives, local initiatives, we also have local youth initiatives. In fact, the organization that I work with is a local initiative. Men Engage Nigeria Network that I represent in the youth arm as a youth initiative, but we're also functioning at the local level. And at the end of the day, we're just trying to see that the African narrative is very powerful because we're not only resilient, but we are evolving as well. So if we continue to foster our local initiatives, right, if we continue to encourage youth engagement and we engage communities, we take it to the grassroots, engaging communities as leaders in these spaces, we'll be able to create a narrative of Africa as a continent of solution, strength, and unity. Our stories are changing every day, and it is up to us at the end of the day to share them authentically and boldly. Thank you. That's my submission.
Oscar Mwanga, who has earlier been introduced uh, by Safia, and he's Dr. John Ishaku. And Dr. John has been with us. He has listened to all the discussions, and I believe, as someone who has a long or extensive experience from the elders wing and connected to the youth, I believe he has a lot to say about the topic at hand. So I would want to, should I give you the questions that were set for Dr. Mwanga, or should I just allow you to freestyle on what has already been said so far? Dr. Ishaku.
I think we can just get some closing remarks from Dr. Ishaku and also Larry.
Okay. All right. Doctor, we're listening. Just give us a closing remark from what you've heard so far. Maybe what you've picked and what you think we should really emphasize. Doctor. Is Doctor still on the call? Dr. John Ishaku, are you still on the call?
I think we're having challenges. Maybe we go to Larry.
Let's move over to Larry. Larry, you've rested for a while. You spoke first, and you've rested for a while. So I believe you've gathered your energy now. You come in with cannons. So let's hear your roundup. What do you make of all the things that have been said from you up until the last speaker? What do you want to add?
It's just to add my voice to what all the speakers have said, that indeed the government cannot do it alone. The youths have to be involved because the youth have the highest population in the demographics. So the youth, they're a major stakeholder, to be honest. So the youth have to be involved. And the only way the youth can be involved is demanding good governance, is ensuring that policies are being implemented. Remembering the NSAS issue that happened in Nigeria, how the youths came out and fought against the injustice being carried out by that department of the police force. Why not channel such energy also? It could be agriculture. Say we demand that we produce more food in Nigeria and stick to it. And the way to do it is actually taking an issue per time, because sometimes we take a lot of things that we want the government to do, and even they are overwhelmed and we are not able to follow up on those things. So we can take a sector and say we want to see, like the former speaker said, digitalization of governance in Nigeria. You understand? We can just take one thing and say this is what we are advocating to be implemented for a particular year, and ensuring that the government delivers on it. Thank you.
Wow, that's a round. That's a real. I really appreciate this addendum. You really touched an aspect which is, like, I can say, a cap on the head, because the youth talk about all these things all the time, and we end up with the same result anyway. So, what about being strategic in asking for the most important things? Then we go to the next one until we exhaust all the lists, right? That's very beautiful. We would like to have Dr. John Ishaku to give his closing remark if he's back on the call. Dr. John Ishaku.
Yeah, I want to emphasize that yes, youth should be given opportunity to participate in political affairs and also to participate in the government. If I would draw us back to Nigerian governance in 1967 to 1970, Gowon became the head of state at the age of 27, 28. It was when he became head of state that they brought a wife for him, Victoria, and he did very well. He did very well at a point in time. We were having enough money in our economy. He even said that we have the money. How to spend the money was the problem. So if youths are being participated in political affairs, in governance, in one way or the other, either directly or indirectly, sincerely speaking, certainly things will be better.
Wow, that's caps it all. And I really appreciate you, Dr. John Ishaku. We were taken back to the age, the era of the one, and a little bit of what happened. Nigeria and Africa indeed has gone through a lot, and we're still going through a lot. We need to just get pictures of all these stages and come together and start working. Thank you very much, Dr. John Ishaku, for that rousing closing remark. And I don't know if Sophia, do we have time for us to listen to one or two people from the call? Maybe one or two people want to say one or two things, or we just want.
Actually, no, because we have another policy parlay by youth themselves, who are the special VIPs for today. We will want to hear from them, and then if there are any comments, we'll ask that people put them in the chat. But we want to thank all the panelists and you, Nasidi, and the radio voice still came out, even though you're sick too. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure, actually.
Thank you
very
very
bye
much.
from me.
All right, bye-bye from here on video, but not bye-bye. Bye-bye. So can we please, production team, take care of that while we move to our next and last major thing that we're focusing on today, last major activity. We're having a youth policy parley. As we said, we've been talking about the youth are the key special guest today. The panel will be moderated by Ladan, Abdullahi Ladan, and he works in the UAE team. He is a member, obviously, of KATT, and he is going to immediately take it up. And we will ask for your patience that we might run over time for 10 minutes, but we will want to keep this this very important discussion now. And please put in your chats and reactions as we go on. Over to you, Ladan.
Thank you so much, and it is indeed an interesting conversation we're having over here. And the panel is really engaging, and it is proven that the panelists are experienced in their various fields, and indeed we are moving forward when it comes to discussions centered around Africa and the future of Africa, which youths are taking initiative, and it is clear here from the conversation we're having today, from the breakout sessions, and from the panel conversation that we are aware of the solutions that and actions that needed to be taken. And as young people, we are doing whatever we could do in our various capacities to take this action. So I welcome you all to the Youth Policy Party, where today we are not only sharing perspective, but engaging active ownership of Africa's future. As we come together to discuss the theme, changing the African narrative, which was recently discussed in the recently concluded panel, where we remember that some of the most pressing issues across the African continent, like the payments solutions, economic empowerment, and of course, inclusive governance, demand our innovative thinking and collective responsibility. As Manisha Dukhoni rightly pointed out, our special guest from I can't remember the country. Apologies for that.
Mauritius.
So yeah, Mauritius. So she rightly pointed out that payment solutions remain a challenge in many parts of Africa, affecting accessibility and growth. But this kind of conversations isn't just about identifying problems, it is more about creating solutions and taking ownership of the future we envision. Dr. Abiola Oshuni reminds us that Africa's future is bright and without a doubt, and it is in our hands and your hands to make it even more brighter. So this conversation was scheduled for 50 minutes, but because of the time we have taken, and I know our audience have other engagement, and we are just 26 minutes to the closing of this event, we'll limit this conversation to like 20 to 25 minutes to see how we can at least wrap up on time. And we'll delve into how budget priorities, leadership, and youth involvement can drive positive transformation for Africa. And we'll be using the African Youth Agenda as a guiding framework for this conversation. And this conversation is more like an open platform for youth, where you can discuss how you can influence and redefine the continent's future narrative. The goal is to gather insight. The goal of this conversation is to gather insight on how African youth perceive the current state of affairs and their role in making Africa's story one of prosperity, empowerment, and global leadership. This conversation is an open mic, so feel free to contribute at any point. And we welcome contributions from young people and other professionals that are here with us. So we have three objectives, which is essentially to provide an African platform for African youth to engage and to explore, secondly, role of youth in changing African narrative and gather actionable insight on how the African Union agenda can be better aligned with priorities of young people across the continent. So let's dive into a meaningful conversation, which goes beyond participation, where each of us contributes to building a more inclusive, resilient, and prosperous Africa. So I have with me 6 people joining me for this panel, and one of them is Zainab Ahmed Nasir. Our second panelist for this session is Omolo Rogers. The third person in our panel is Balkis Shavan, and the next person is Yusuf Ishaq Ogoje, and we have Justice Infiri. So we will dive into the conversation without wasting much time, and I will start directing the questions to Mr. Omolo Rogers. Mr. Rogers, your work with marginalized youth has been instrumental in driving social change. How can budget priorities better support economic opportunities and healthcare for vulnerable youth population, such as those living with HIV and disabilities, in reshaping Africa's story? Mr. Rogers, if you are here with us.
Thank you so much for the opportunity and just taking the time. It's really insightful because we've had a great conversation here. I'm so much inspired with the change makers that we have in Africa. My name is Roger Somolo. I'm based in Kenya, the way you've been told. And basically, I work with young people, most still young people living with HIV and disability. And maybe to answer you, because I'm focused much more on inclusion. How are the young people included in policy spaces on matters health, education, and employment? And one thing for us, if we want to achieve a better Africa for young people, then we need to talk about inclusion. And when we're talking about inclusion, not just having young people participate, but they are ethically engaged. Because sometimes we engage young people because young people have been asking for meaningful engagement, but that unethical engagement, which sometimes build mistrust and also reduce participation of young people in these spaces. So how can we ensure that marginalized young people are also included and they're able to contribute to development of Africa? One way that I always talk about is capacity building. capacity building in terms of giving them the right information and just ensuring that the information that they have, they can use them. Because most of the time I've seen young people who are going into politics and they want to maybe vie for positions. But because they are not exposed, they've not been mentored, and they don't have capacity in terms of handling leadership, that has blocked us. And I believe with the mentorship, with capacity building, with providing skills that are required, basically this will ensure that even if we are fighting for these spaces, we are able to sustain ourselves in these spaces and also ensure that our voices is heard. So when I'm talking about capacity building, it's not just in terms of skills wise, but also just ensuring that young people are in this platform and they are given platform to participate. Because sometimes we fail to go to these leadership positions or participate in African leadership position because of lack of platform. You'll go there are a lot of people who do not trust you. You're not given opportunity to lead. There are a lot of stigma that is surrounding young people. Maybe they are also doubting our leadership skills. But with capacity building, with mentorship, we're able to also ensure that young people are engaged. And basically, when I'm talking about inclusion, I'm talking about inclusion in terms of having equal access to opportunities, equal access to education, equal access to employment, and equal access to this position that we as young people we're looking for, and we trying to ensure that we are part and parcel of. And then
that's really a very important point when you talk about equal access, because looking at youth engagement, especially in peace building, there's need for equal access to opportunities for young people. And at this juncture, I would love to, sorry, I'm cutting you short. I would love to hear from Balkis Shaban. Let me get her perspective on how can budget priorities and governance structures be improved to support youth engagement in peace building processes across Africa. So, Bilkis, what role do you see youth playing in transforming Africa's narrative globally, if you are here with us?
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope you can hear me clearly. Again, congratulations for the team on this great launching event. My name is Balqis, and I am from Tunisia, but I'm currently based in Geneva. And I am the founder of Youth Transforming Narratives, which is actually a movement for young people from global south or so-called global south countries to decolonize international peace and security. I've been saying this for a lot of years now, and I think unfortunately we'll have to continue to say it for the next years until our demands are actually met. But young people are not only transformative and not only for Africa's narrative, but honestly globally. It's very important to also highlight that young people are truly, the futures that we have, we're the leaders of that. But not only the future, we're also the leaders of today. And so young people are in a way core to changing and transforming the narrative of Africa. And there is so much that young people can do. It's just that we're obviously not given the floor as much as we should have. We're not being included in decision making, right? We're actually excluded in a lot of in a lot of policy making. And this is something, unfortunately, that we keep calling for. And, as much as I think this is basic at this point to say, but young people really need to be at the core of decision making. They have voices, not only in Africa again, but globally, that can elevate future solutions. They can ensure that peace building and peace in general is actually sustainable. Young people want to reclaim and decolonize the narrative. They want to connect globally with especially with other young people in other African countries. And young people, have the skills to participate in global advocacy movements. The problem is that not only are we not given the floor, but even when we are given the floor, it's very tokenistic effort. And so we're being included in decision-making tables and around it, in discussions, just for the sake of saying, there you go, we met the quota, we included young people, no one can complain anymore. And so we're there, but we're not technically contributing. And so this is what I try to highlight all the time when I talk to young people in my organization, or when I try to connect with them in different platforms or different events, is that when you demand to be included in decision making, and when you aim to transform narratives, not only in Africa, but globally, make sure that you're doing it in an efficient and transformative way. Make sure that when you're included, your voice is actually heard. You know, your opinions are being taken into consideration. You're being listened to, and you know your points are being taken note of, added to future policy making. So we have to be very, very careful, because I think what's happening today is that a lot of these more, Western, I would say, dominated narratives, what they're doing is that they're seeing how much the movement of young people is growing and the call for inclusion is growing. And so they're trying to respond to it in a way that still wouldn't harm their agendas. And so they would give us a seat or two, which to begin with is not even enough. But once we have that seat, we're not really given the floor to say anything meaningful. And even if we are given the floor, our opinions are simply not taken into consideration. Our inputs are not included in policy making. So I always tell young people, do not be fooled by that. Ensure that your contributions are meaningful in the sense that they are transforming the narrative and they are changing policy making. So don't fall for it. On how young people can transform Africa's narrative, I mean, I don't have to say this, but of course, young people have so many skills, whether that would be literally, I mean, in any field, from peace building to peace and security to conflict resolution to preventing conflict, sorry. I mean, there's so much that young people can do. Young people have the skills, right? I always say we need to stop talking about capacity building and actually say capacity strengthening, because young people don't need to build their skills. They already have them. They just need to be tuned a bit, right, to ensure that they meet the current challenges. And so there's so much that young people can do. Of course, we need better platforms. We need more inclusive policies. We need better funding for youth-driven research, youth-driven peace building initiatives. We need budget allocations that are more transparent, that actually do put young people at the core of their programs. We need better governance. We need leadership programs. All of these, again, are things young people can do. We just have to make sure that, like I said, inclusion is actually meaningful.
Yeah, inclusion is truly meaningful. And talking about budget and governance, let me move to Yusuf Goje. While Balkis made important submission, especially talking about when young people are included, because we've been talking about inclusion is an issue. Inclusion is an issue for young people, but yet when young people are given opportunity, they tend or ended up abusing it. So she's saying that, and also emphasizing that when you are included, make sure your voice is actually strong. Make sure you are capable and equal to the task. So prepare yourself ahead. So as a budget analyst, how do you think budget allocation can help shape a new narrative for Africa, particularly in the areas of youth development, employment, and education?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you. Once again, my name is...
Thank you for joining us, Yusuf Amuchi.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I'm sorry if I might have missed it. I'm directing the question to Yusuf Goje, but we'll come to you, of course. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. So if my Oga Yusuf Amoki responds, it's okay, it's my boss. So I can yield the floor to him. So thank you very much for this opportunity to share our thoughts. My name is Yusuf Goje, a civil society actor, but I prefer to call myself an active citizen because I believe that the work we do with civil society is not a career, but a civic responsibility. Thank you for that very important question. But first, permit me to also do a disclaimer that I have gone above all the age grades as defined by the United Nations, the African Charter, as well as Nigeria policy as regards the age of who a youth is. So I prefer to call myself a young adult, but I work so closely with young people. And here in Kaduna, Nigeria, where we stay, we have worked with young people to engage the budget process in terms of allocations. And we have seen what young people can do when they pull together their innovative power in terms of shaping budgetary allocations. And again, if there's anything we need to create for young people to be able to direct or shape where budget allocation should be, is to also create as much platforms for them to do so. Just 2 years back, we were able to support young people between the age of 18 and 29, which is the youth age as regards the National Youth Reviewed Youth Policy 2019. And we have seen where these young people, 3 of them have emerged as co-chairs of the Open Government Partnership in Kaduna State. One of them is the co-chair in terms of the state steering committee, and they are now on the table and are better positioned to shape budgetary allocation. So it is also critical that we really build the capacity of young people, because the budget itself is an intersection and interplay of 4 key factors: one, political; two, economic; three, social; and four, technical. And we must build the capacity of young people across these 4 areas to be able to have the needed influence that can shape budget, so that we can also shape the narratives, particularly around ensuring that not just increase budget allocation for human capital development, but also releases, because you can see countries that sometimes meet the 15% for the Abuja Declaration for health, or 26% for education. But when it comes to the actual releases of funds, you see the funds going to other priorities that favors the political actor. So that is a critical area we need to pay attention. And also, even as young people, we must begin to pool their political capital, because in most African countries, politics determine governance. And as long as young people cannot prove the point during elections, after elections, when governance is taking place, their voice are usually easily ignored, because at the end of the day, the calculation would be, do they really have the capacity to determine the electoral outcome? So we must encourage young people to harness their political power, so that they can bring it to the negotiating table. As it is with the budget process, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. And that is critical for young people in terms of engaging the budget process. But I must say, we must go beyond budget applications to now seeing budget releases and how those budgets are utilized as targeting young people.
Thank you so much for that. And one thing that really stood out is for young people, the need for young people to begin to harness their political capital to avoid the use and dump, which is a regular thing by politicians across the world, especially in our own part of the country, of our continent. So let me hear from Justice Infiri. As an advocate for cultural and creative industries, how can Africa's narrative be reshaped by investing in these sectors, like the cultural and creative sectors? So what do you think, as an advocate in this sector, what do you think are key areas that government needs to prioritize in their budgeting to foster youth-driven cultural innovation?
Thank you very much for that question. I will start by writing on the established effects that Africa represents the global population for the future, which means that we have the youth demographic, which represents 70% of Africa's population, which globally is the biggest population for a youth representation. So what matters in this discussion is to make sure that the youth are aptly represented, to make sure that whatever concerns that they have are taken on board. And particularly in this discussion, focusing on the budget, it is important to make sure that the youths, we identify where the majority of the youths are, in which sectors are the youths represented. And your question is directed to the cultural and creative industries. I am speaking from a country where the majority of issues that have been put forward in this discussion to be improved have already been improved. So you look at education, we have come up with innovations in Zimbabwe where the education model we are pursuing, Education 5.0, is coming up with innovations right from the youths, directed at industrializing and innovating the sectors right from the economy, our society, in politics, and everything in between. You go to mining, you go to agriculture, the solutions are relevant. We just recorded some what you call a bumper harvest in wheat. We have all those record highs right from 1960. We did not have that kind of harvest. So that tells you that there's a lot of innovation going on in sectors that are relevant to securing food security, securing the self-awareness of a people. When education is given to the people and it is relevant to their experiences, their local experiences, that makes it a lot more relevant to what they are pursuing. So for the arts and culture, what we need is a formalization strategy that is fronted whether by government, development partners, NGOs, or the CSOs. Whichever arm comes into play, they should consider formalization of the cultural and creative industries. Why is that important? You have a huge chunk of population, right from women right into the youth population, that are engaging in craftwork, sculpture, fine art, music. All those forms of cultural and creative industries have been hugely promoted. But you find that 93% right from the research that was done by International Labour Organization in collaboration with UNESCO, 93% of the practitioners in the arts, they are informal. 7% are registered. So that shows you that with the potential that is represented by the cultural and creative industries, where you find that just from January to April of 2023, the industry contributed $3.3 million into the economy through exports of crafts and craftworks. So that shows you that the potential is huge. And this is coming from a sector that is 93% informalized. So what potential is represented in the sector when it is formalized? It is huge. It could be multiplied by 10. Those figures could go that high. So that shows you that the priority for a country like Zimbabwe, I take Zimbabwe as a model of development because it is taking the necessary steps in all that which matters in making sure that we have not only a conscious people, but a patriotic youth who are in charge of their future, who determine that which matters to push the agenda of the Pan-African people forward. Talk of the African Union Youth Agenda, talk of the Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. The reason it is important to prioritize the arts and culture is because you kill two birds with one stone. You hear them say culture is the new currency. It means that you can commercialize your knowledge, you can commercialize the aesthetics of your culture, and you get revenue from that. At the same time, you are promoting an awareness globally about who you are. You are promoting a consciousness within your people, amongst your people, and you are promoting that which you know, your ways of being and your ways of decoding the
Because now
cosmos.
for youth panel,
And
they
that's
need them.
particularly
ROE.
important for me.
Those youth.
So for me, that's particularly important, because if you can kill those two birds with one stone, that means that when Africa then presents itself to the global scale, because right now what we are fighting for is a representation where we are able to know that our voices are heard, whether it's at the UN, we want a voice in the Security Council. So when you go there with a level of consciousness, knowing fully well that you are the mighty people and the mighty people and founders of civilization. We have Great Zimbabwe, we have the pyramids, huge civilizations that were happening at a time when the world was dark. So that tells you that we are the masters of civilization, and we can continue to ride on that. The artistry of our ancestors, it still lives within us, and we need to push that forward and making sure that as much as it is relevant to the modern world, it takes us forward in our aspirations for economic growth and political will is very important in that in the world trajectory. So the point I'm making, just to wrap it off, is Africa needs to unite under the common goal of self-consciousness. That is a Pan-African dream which can even be traced back to 1963, where the African leaders were coming together and coming up with the OAU, which is now the African Union. So with that in mind, realizing that we have not made much progress in materializing the dreams of those founding fathers of our continent, we need to come together in this present day and say, what are the fundamental aspects of our lived experiences that need to go beyond that which we see today? Because the youth do not represent the future, they represent the present. And that's why 2063 is an agenda for the Africa we want. The Africa we want is a people who are conscious, so that when we present ourselves and our complaints and our wishes to the global scale, we are under a united voice. And that's what matters. Yeah, insofar as the cultural and creative industries are concerned. Thank you.
Yeah, that's quite a really important one, especially the fact that you raise it up that Africa needs to unite under the common goal of self-consciousness, and that's more of a context, which the African Union agenda seeks to achieve, especially when it relates to developing the capacities of human angels and ensuring gender equality and of course, gender equity. And Zainab, with your experience in youth and women's development, how do you think can budget prioritization be aligned to focus on empowering young women and girls? And how does this contribute to changing the African narrative from your experience working with women and girls? Zainab, if you're with us.
Okay, good day, everybody, and thanks for having me. And when you talk about improvements or empowerment of women and girls, uh, you talk about improvement of budget and making policies that are conducive for their collective development. But the biggest challenge that I always pointed out is about the issue of not having the youth on the table of correcting the policies that will favor them. For example, you will have, speaking from experience, I am currently a member of a youth development bill, and you will find out that there are little or yes, there are little representation of young people, and this is their bill, and they are the ones that know their issues, they are the ones that know their concerns, but you will not find them on the table. So, and there is this kind of tension that always happen between the youth and the elders. There are some elders that don't want to let go the benefits that comes with being a young person. So they always want to take the place. So you will find out that anywhere where it's supposed to be the seat of young people, they they were being marginalized. They were being marginalized from their space. So what needs really to be done is improved advocacy to have them at the seat of the table, and also uh, bring policies, like I said. For example, there is in Kano State where I lived in Nigeria, there is an advocacy for the establishment of a youth development trust fund, which will uh, help to take care of the needs of young people, give them voices, and to mitigate and navigate all the challenges that comes with being a young person. The organization I am leading, Youth Society for the Prevention of Infectious Disease and Social Biases, we deal with issues of adolescent health, and we know how young people don't have, or they are always restricted when it comes to issue of accessing uh, accessing sexual and reproductive health products, which often affect their productive well-being, and it makes them not to contribute to the society as young people. So, like I said, improve advocacy and awareness will really change the narratives for young people and women to be collectively empowered in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zainab. This is really interesting, especially talking about the biggest part, which I think what you said and what Balkis Shawan said is more like connected, like young people having a seat on the table. And Balkis Shawan emphasized that young people should also ensure that when they have that seat, they have the capacity to represent young people well enough. So this is a call to action on young people to like build your own capacity while the opportunity finds you. So let's hear from Yusuf Amoki. And Yusuf Amoki is also part of the panel, but he wasn't here at the start of the panel. That's why we couldn't introduce him. Is the Special Assistant on Climate Change to the Executive Governor of Kaduna State. He's an experienced climate enthusiast with a lot of solid background when it comes to climate change. So, Yusuf, from your background in climate change policy, how do you see African governments balancing environmental sustainability with youth engagement in policy making? And what role can budget priorities play in this when it comes to balancing budget provisions with youth engagement? So, how do you think, and what role can budget priorities play in this? So, we'll quickly take Yusuf's Amoche's response, and we'll get a 1 minute, 1 minute conclusions from our panelists, and we'll go back to Safia from there. So, apologies our audience who are rounding up very soon. So, Yusuf, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much for having me, and I apologize for not being here at the beginning of the program. To start with, like you did say, my name is Yusuf Idris Amoke, the Special Assistant on Climate Change to the Governor of Kaduna State, Malam Obasani. Before then, I founded an organization called Green Climate Africa, and so many other activities that we're doing. And yet I'm happy to inform you all that I was recently appointed a national climate negotiator for Nigeria. So we'll be talking around climate change, negotiating on behalf of Nigeria and Africa, and of course the group of 77 and China at COP29 in Baku later in next month, in 2 weeks' time or thereabout. So, and I'm so happy to be here to talk about climate change, youth, budget, and Africa itself. The environment has been a part of us, even though a lot of people could not understand and appreciate this. And the impact of climate change is so pervasive that Even those that do not believe in climate change cannot actually deny the fact that the impact is, everywhere, ranging from most especially erratic, rainfall or weather condition, to failure in agricultural produce that is leading to food scarcity hello that is leading to food scarcity in Africa. And I would like you to note that Africa occupies 65% of the world arable, land. But unfortunately, Africa cannot feed itself. So this boils down to issue of leadership, issue of identity lost, issue inferiority complex, and the rest of that. Like I did say earlier, of course, you cannot civilize. While you talk about the pyramids in Egypt, you also talk about the Nok culture in Kaduna here, Nigeria, Africa, that has been in existence even before Christ. You talk about the Oyo kingdom, who the wall of the Benin kingdom, whose wall is even longer than the China wall that is being celebrated today. So has actually been one of a great undoing. So now, when you look at the intersection of climate change and governance in Africa, you see that, and of course the youth, because the youth have a great role to play because they are the future of Africa. And you know very well that Africa is a youthful continent with a huge amount of young people in Africa. Then this afternoon, I had a session with some civil society organizations, and I was actually drawing attention to the narrative young people use in engaging people in government. Some of the narrative are those things that actually scare the people in government away from giving them listening ears or from providing them the enabling environment to thrive. For instance, you're saying that you want young people are saying they want to come on board in order to have a voice, and they feel threatened by that. But instead, when you say, I want to come on board in order to bring in the youthful, exuberant energy, to also bring in the perspective of the young people, how they see things, you see that people in government will start appreciating these young people to come on board, and actually they will now find the enabling environment to thrive. And you see, is it Karl Marx also will say that power is not given, power is taken. All right. So we're not talking about the political power this time around. We're talking about the economic power, because when young people are economically empowered, then the continent will be transformed, because what we need is economic transformation or economic empowerment due to the numerous undoing that we're suffering from, starting from food insecurity, poverty, to diseases, to conflicts, and the rest of them. And that is where climate change jumps in again. Climate change is actually exacerbating the issue of insecurity and unrest in Africa, most especially around the Sahel region, which a lot of people are not paying attention to. The climate change has actually provided a breeding ground for conflict to thrive, because competition for resources is being skyrocketed. These resources is so scarce, and the population is growing. So at the end of the day, it becomes the survival of the fittest. The fittest takes it all. We have issues of land grabbing in communities, issues of sources of livelihood being threatened. So at the end of the day, you see that instead of the huge amount of young people or youth that we have to become a blessing, it now become a curse, because they now are used as tools, to ferment trouble and to cause, crisis and things like that. So steps that need to be taken. One of them is, before I say that, you see, Africa is so huge and so wealthy that it houses more than 30% of the world, resources. But these resources are only potentials if they are not put to use. Around the same climate issues that I'm talking about, Africa, there's a research in one of the universities, I can't remember the name of the university, but there is this research that finds out that the Congo rainforest is the most important carbon sink in the whole of the world. What it sinks is it's higher than what the Amazon rainforest actually sinks. And what we're talking about today is carbon market. We're talking about the huge amount of money that is around carbon trading. We're talking about net carbon emission, carbon credits and the rest of them. And it is so sad to inform you that instead of Africa to utilize what it has, the forests that we have, to make case for us to get these resources, these monies into Africa to actually build resilience. Instead, we are now selling our forest lands, to people outside Africa. For instance, there is a company called Carbon Blue, owned by UAE, coming from UAE, and they bought about 20% of Zimbabwe's forest, which is as huge and as big as United. So at the end of the day, if people will come and buy your forest, and they are not coming to farm anything or do anything, then I think we should raise concern, because what will come out of that, at the end of the day, will triple whatsoever that forest is being sold for. And they are not doing that only in Zimbabwe, in Zambia, in Kenya, in Tanzania, in Liberia, and the rest of them. So these are areas that Africa, both the youth and leadership, need to pay attention in order for us to harness the potentials that is around the carbon market. So now, people, let me just give 1 or 2 points on steps that we take that can actually help us to get out of this. There's need for institutionalization.
So, Yusuf, while you are doing that, I think you might as well add up with your closing remark, and we'll move to other panelists as well.
Okay. Quickly, youth, there should be institutionalization of youth income. There are a lot of documents that are developed around, like the climate change policy. Different countries are doing theirs. There is need for youth to be involved in the whole of those processes. Then there is need for youth to also be involved as delegates. National delegates to conference of parties like the COP that is taking place now in Baku. Young people or youth specifically should be included as negotiators, as delegates, just to go see what is happening and for them to gain experience, since they are the future of Africa. Then we need also to develop their capacity. These guys have skills, like one of the speakers did say. They have skills, but they need to be developed, and opportunities need to be given to them. Then integrated climate education awareness. There is need for young people to, there's need for the education. Climate education should be infused into curriculum in schools, so that the children and young people will grow with the climate compliance in them, or environmental compliance in general. Then we have issue of community engagement and local ownership, of actions around climate change. Ladan has been signaling me of time, so let me just do the closing remark. My remarks. I wish to thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. This program of this nature has held last year, which I was so happy to be part of, and it's happening again. And Kaduna State is investing hugely in climate action, and we've just launched our 10 million tree planting campaign, which we are, of course, inviting your organization to be part of what we are doing, so that we can actually contribute to climate action in Kaduna State, Nigeria, and Africa. So I wish to thank IWI and of course, the Kabilun for giving me this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Yusuf, and we are glad that you out of your busy schedules, you are really your opportunity to be here. So we are really excited, and we know from your wealth of experience, you can talk for the next 1 week, and it's really a very important point. But we just have to pause because of time. Our audience have been here with us for the past 3 hours, and we need to round up. But as you just rightly mentioned, this conversation will continue. And of course, for the partnership invitation, we are really excited. And of course, we'll follow up with you on that. So thank you so much for this key, important, and valuable insight. So in 1 minute each for the panelists, I'll go around so that we can get your remark. And for Rogers, I think we'll do 2 minutes since Rogers was cut short during his own submission. So Rogers, if you are with us, for 2 minutes, can you tell us what you want us to get as a takeaway?
Thank you so much. Actually, I'm so happy, like I mentioned before, and because of time, I will just take the 1 minute. I just want to thank you for the opportunity to engage in this insightful conversation concerning youth voices. And I will say, let's continue to ensure that young people are not only heard, but are empowered to shape the policies that directly impact our lives as young people in Africa. And I believe coming together as young people, we'll be able to build a more inclusive and equitable future for our generation. And I'm looking forward for more engagement, not just this one, but looking forward for engaging with you in other platforms. And I will be cheering you up in all other things that you're doing. You're doing great work. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rogers. We're very much excited that we're able to be here, and we're aware that you have another online program, but yet you are still here with us, and we really do appreciate. Thank you so much. So, Justice, over to you if you're with us. Just 1 minute. What do you have for us?
Yes, my parting remarks would be that if Africa is to present itself on the global scale as a conscious people, then there is no other avenue that we are going to do that except through the arts and culture. They are the custodians of a people's self-awareness. The consciousness of a people resides in their arts and culture. We need to put resources into arts and culture so that as we express ourselves, as we sell our image to the global scale, we define the meanings around us, we define ourselves, and we present ourselves as a unified force. For agriculture, for mining, for the rest of it, we have solutions. We know how to do our farming in indigenous ways that protect us from hunger, that protect us from food insecurity. But for the arts, there is that need for us to prioritize the self-consciousness of our people, so that as we tell our stories, we define who we are, and as we go yonder, we present ourselves as a unified force, which makes it a lot more easier for us to be heard, because when you are united, then there is no force formed against you that can counter the strength that you exhibit. I thank you.
Thank you so much for that insightful one, Justice. We really appreciate. Zainab, if you're here with us, a key takeaway.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this exciting and wonderful session. I really have a lot of take-home ideas here, and I also want to encourage all the young people on this call to continue to advocate for the youth seat at the table. It is nothing about us without us. It is our policies, it's our problems, it's our concerns. So we need to be there in order to give in our input. Let's continue pushing. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so very much. And that is what's happening when you have experts in their fields. You might plan to talk for like 20 minutes, but we ended up talking for almost like 50 minutes. And that's because of the wealth of experience the people we have on the panel have. And it is something we benefit from. And as our guests in this special platform, we cannot just cut them short because their contributions will definitely help us and our audience. So thank you very much for this important submission. And we invite you to be part of Kabilun Africa think tank, and I will drop the membership form link on the chat box so that you can register, and we'll keep this conversation running in our LinkedIn group. Once you register, you're part of our LinkedIn group, and this conversation will continue from there. So thank you very much for being part of this session. And at this juncture, I will hand it over to Sophia.
Thank you so much to everyone. Like, I am so proud. I'm so encouraged. And I want to assure you that these voices will be heard, and we will do it in a proper way. And that's, we've just started. Okay. Congratulations, Olga, Yusuf, and we are coming. So all of our experts, everyone that has said, we're on the right track, we're coming. Okay. Thank you to everyone. I'm rounding up now. Just some notes about how to get involved, because this is just the beginning. This is not the end. We're not just going to come talk blah, 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 and then that's it. No, we're going to have concrete engagements. I'll show you what they are. So how can you get involved? You can sign up for membership. The link is in the chat. Join our LinkedIn group. That's where most of our announcements will be. Contribute to research, participate in activities, partner with us, and support our work. So these are the ways you can get involved. Now, what is it we're going to do over the course of the rest of 2024 up to the quarter of 2025? So please listen in, because we need to do this together. So please join us and indicate your interest to take part. You will receive emails after this. You will receive the legacy itself, contact details. The LinkedIn group is the easiest, fastest way to kind of share and plan. So we are going to start the intensive dissemination and engagement of policymakers following this legacy product across the continent. We need volunteers to help us with this. So share your interest. The plan is to have at least one focal person in every African country. So please spread the word. And this is something we're going to work towards. We're having a partnership drive, and internships will be available. So we've talked a lot about capacity strengthening, right? You've seen a lot of expertise on this call. We want to continue to strengthen that capacity. So internships will be available. We also will continue with evidence-based policy advocacy series fellowships, with scholarships that feature experts and certified courses. So it's very targeted, and information will come about this. There will be capacity strengthening on leadership and professional development webinars. That we're going to have a set of webinars, and we're going to share our calendar on the group, and the planning and development, obviously, of the next legacy. And just so we know that the announcements will be posted, as we said, in our LinkedIn group and to our membership database. So if you haven't yet signed up to the membership database, we encourage you. Our email, obviously, is Kabilun Africa Think Tank at ewing.org. And we want to say a huge thank you to everyone for staying with us throughout this entire discussion today. I'm going to try and just move this. Yes. Thank you to everyone who stayed with us. For those of us who are making our hair, for those of us who stayed through lunch, dinner, and everything else, we want to say a big thank you. You can see in the chat, you're also going to get, lastly, sorry, very quick one. There's a quick poll. We need some feedback from you. So I'm just launching the poll now. And please rate us on a scale of 1 to 5, how impactful and useful this event was to you. So you can probably see the poll right now. For all our speakers experts who are coming back. We struggled a lot with squeezing all of this into 3 hours. Okay. And we overshot by 30 minutes. So that is something we don't want to keep doing. So we're going to break things up. And you have your poll there, and we're just waiting for some responses. Tell us how useful, how impactful and useful the event was, your level of satisfaction with it, and if you think that things like this can be effective in influencing policy. Because one of the things we would want to do after this is get policymakers in the room, right? We all talk, we all know what should be done, and so on and so forth. But how do we get people in the room that can make the kind of change, and not just them, but also us? So there's a lot of work to be done ahead. So please give us your feedback. It will be so helpful for us. If you have any other suggestions, improvements, the kind of events we should hold. We are not a think tank that's just going to talk. We're going to do as well. And we're looking forward to you joining the conversations. For youth, it's for everyone. For those driving, please drive safe. I can see cars even. It's good we already had our photos taken, so we're good. Just 30 more seconds, and then we're very free to leave after we finish the poll. Thank you so much. Thank you to the team. It was very challenging. Trust me, very, very, very challenging, but we did it. So congratulations to you, and well done. And thank you for all your support.